Toby here with TPD HiFi. Today we're going to be installing a set of our TPD HiFi custom kick panels in a 67 C10. These are custom wrapped just for this particular project with material that'll match the existing interior. We're going to be installing these with a set of Morel Nano Carbon 62 two-way speaker system that use incredibly shallow subwoofers that are less than 3/4 of an inch thick. As you can see, this is a completely assembled kick panel. The speaker itself is actually shallower than the kick panel, and there's zero cutting involved on this pickup. All right, so before we get started in actually doing the installation of our kick panel, it's a good time to get all our tools and materials together so that we're not making trips back and forth from the vehicle to the toolbox or to your parts cabinets. So some of the tools that we're going to need to do the kick panel installation, we're going to need a cordless drill and an 1/8 inch drill bit. We're going to need some painter's tape, wire crimper, wire strippers that'll do multiple sizes, some scissors and electrical tape, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, some various straight pick tools, and our sound deadening roller. And then for materials, we've got our number 8 by 1 inch screws that come with the kick panels, our backing sound deadener, and of course our kick panel. So let's get started. We've got our wires run for our kick panel speakers from the amplifier to the kick panels, and we've got them in the position that we want them. We got enough length to go to the speaker. So before we start the kick panel installation, we're going to go ahead and terminate the woofer wire with the correct connectors and the tweeter wire. This one's getting the Morel Nano Carbon 62, which is the 6-inch and 6-inch two-way with the tweeter. So we'll go ahead and finish this off with 1/4 inch connectors for the woofer. And then we'll do the tweeter connections, which on these are 2.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch, I believe. So we got our strippers and crimpers. We strip the wires and use the correct crimpers to crimp the connections on. And our tweeter wire's done, our woofer wire's done. We're ready to mock up the kick panel. So next we have the base of the kick panel, and we've got 5 mounting holes for our number 8 screws, number 8 by 1 inch screws. So before we start putting those in, we want to pre-drill the holes and we want to get them in position. This is for the 67 to 72 C10. They're all pretty much the same. If you have the fresh air vent pole in place, you need to remove that and get it out of the way for now. So we'll go ahead and we only have 1 screw holding this in. We'll go ahead and take that out. The fresh air vent will get remounted later onto the kick panel itself. So we'll go ahead and just swing that out of the way. Next, we want to get the kick panel into position. So we're doing the driver's side right now. And one of the things that you're going to have to do in most cases on the driver's kick panel is relocate the high-low dimmer switch a little bit over to the right. This one was moved about 3 inches to the right, and now it's out of the way of the kick panel. So after you've done that, get the kick panel in position. There's a line right here that goes to this, right in the front of this pinch weld, that kind of defines the point where the door molding, once it's installed, will stop. So you pretty much want to follow that line, line it up in position. It goes nice and tight. There's a groove right here for the wires. I'll show you that before we put it in. So there's a channel right here that the wires can run in, so it keeps the back of that kick panel nice and tight up against the body sheet metal. So we'll slide it back in there, keeping the wire in that channel. And this is just mock-up. We're going to take it back out because we want to apply our sound deadening. But we want to make sure it's in the correct position. So we're going to go ahead and take our 1/8 inch drill bit and our cordless drill, and we're going to drill one of the pilot holes, holding it in place. I usually start with Usually start with the top one. So we go ahead and drill that. Okay, we get pilot hole. We go ahead and take one of our screws and screw it into position. Snug that down. Now I can let go, it'll pretty much stay in position. When we do our second hole, that's going to permanently locate the kick panel. So again, we want to follow this line, make sure it's straight up and down. And I like to do one of the alternating holes, so maybe go over here, drill that second hole, put that other hole, screw in the hole and tighten that down. Now it's in position. Now we have the rest of our mounting holes locations. We can go ahead and finish drilling those out and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. All right, so now that we got our wires terminated, we got our kick panel mocked up in the position it's going to stay in, and we've got our pilot holes drilled for our screws, we're actually going to go ahead and take it out of the way. But before we do that, since we're going to apply acoustic sound deadening behind the kick panel, we want to make sure that we apply this inside of the kick panel a little bit so you don't see it sticking out. Now, since on this truck we do have a line to kind of go by. On other vehicles where it's not so clear, you can take a piece of masking tape and just run it along the front edge of that kick panel as close as you can. Get it tucked right in there to the edge of that kick panel. And now you have an edge that you want to backspace that sound deadening material about 1/8 or 1/4 inch past that line so that you don't see it once the kick panel is installed. This is just going to absorb some of those back waves of the speaker and get rid of any unwanted reflections from the sound of the rear of the speaker bouncing off the sheet metal. So we definitely want to use the sound deadening behind. This has got acoustic foam on the outside as well as butyl sound deadening on the inside. All right, so now that we've got that done, we're going to actually take the kick panel out to install our sound deadening. And during this process, I prefer to use a hand screwdriver over a power drill. We have freshly upholstered kick panels, and it's just one less potential accident waiting to happen if you're not using a power drill, getting them out. And it also saves your screws. So these are the last two screws holding the kick panel in. So we'll go ahead and take those out. Slide the kick panel out of the way. Take our Morel AccuDamp triple layer sound deadening, which it has a backing on the back we're going to have to remove to expose the adhesive. But let's go ahead and just do a little test fit first. Make sure it's clear of everything. You might even want to pull the carpet back and tuck it down and back as far as you can, making sure you stay on the inside of that tape line. So that looks good. So next thing we're going to do is remove the backing. One thing you can do with sound deadening to help you locate it, if you want to remove part of the backing and leave part of it on, you can use the non-removed part to actually locate it. And then you can roll the sound deadening on and then remove the rest of the backing. It's a little way to stay a little bit safer. So basically, we'll line up that front edge inside there a little bit. We've got to get it really dropped down so we don't want it exposed. And it's lined up. Now I can roll that sticky part back in position, and then pull the rest of the backing off. Get that partially stuck. It's pretty humid here for right now. Unless you roll it down, it doesn't want to stick. But once we put the roller on it, it'll stay stuck. All right, so once we have the Morel AccuDamp into position, our sound deadening is all ready to go. We've got the Morel AccuDamp sound deadening roller. We're just going to roll that on so it stays nice and stuck and it smooths out all the wrinkles. Make sure it's nice and flat. Really push it on there. Get that adhesive to activate with the surface. And there we go. Put our wires back into position so they land kind of where you want them. In fact, another little tip, if you want those wires to kind of stay put, you can take either some masking tape or Gorilla Tape and kind of position them where you know the channel is so they don't really move. It's just going to be under the carpet. You'll never see it. Put your carpet back over your high beam dimmer switch. And we're ready to go. Take our tape line off. All right, now that we've got our sound deadening installed, we're ready to put our kick panel back on for the final time. So we've got our kick panel base. Don't forget, we have a wired channel to run the wires through. So we want to make sure those line up so it sits nice and flat. And we'll scoot it in there, making sure the wire stays in there. And making sure you're lined up with this front edge. You might have to shove that carpet down into the groove a little bit to get it to sit the way you want it. It's not 100% science, but you'll kind of get the hang of it after you do the first one. So now I'm in rough position, but that sound deadening is covering my holes. So I've got a pick tool, and really you just need to find one to get yourself started. I like to start with the top one. So as long as you know you're close, you can feel around for this with the pick tool and find the hole that you drilled. And there we go. Another way to do it, if you have two pick tools, or if you just want to try screwing one of the other screws in, you can leave the pick tool in there to locate it, and then try running one of the other screws right into the hole. So let's go ahead and give that a try. Get it through the sound deadening, and there we go. It went right in. So having at least one or two pick tools around to help you locate the holes that you drilled really helps out a lot. So we'll go ahead and get that screw in. Get the rest of our number 8 mounting screws in. It doesn't hurt to, from time to time, make sure that wire doesn't fall out of that channel, because its back isn't tightened down yet until you at least get this top screw in. All right, so we've got all of our screws started. We've got a kick panel in position. Let's go ahead and finish tightening down the screws. Again, I like to use a hand number 2 Phillips screwdriver here rather than a cordless power drill, just because it only takes one slip up before you're making a trip to the upholstery shop to have your kick panel redone. It's really not worth it. Go and tighten, check it out. It's all nice and tight. Then we take our wires. I know which ones are which here because I've got the small connectors on the tweeter and the large connectors on the woofer. In this case, the crossovers aren't installed yet, so we can always use a speaker tester and confirm which ones are hooked to which. So we're going to connect the wires with the large 1/4-inch connectors to the woofer connections. Go ahead and slide those on. All right, so lastly, we're going to hook up our tweeter wires. If you're using the small 1/8-inch connectors with insulation and you have the rubber boots on the other side, we can just ditch those. It's hard to get them over these types of connectors. Make sure to hook the positive to positive. In this case, our white going to our amplifiers is positive, and then our red going to the tweeter is positive. Connect that up. Connect your negative. And since we took those little rubber boots off, in this case, we're going to have to use some electrical tape to go ahead and seal that up. You could also use heat shrink here if you wanted, but electrical tape will do fine. It's just protecting it. Our connection is a solid connection. We're not using the electrical tape to make the connection. We're just using it to protect it. We always recommend using good electrical tape like 3M Super 33. It'll stay on there, it won't gum up. All right, so once your connections are made, go ahead and carefully insert the speaker panel into the opening to where it meets up with the magnets. This one's got some particularly thick upholstery on it, so it's going to be nice and tight. The magnets just are a little additive protection, but it's definitely not going anywhere. And there's our kick panel with our Morel Nano 62s installed, our two-way system. All right, so continuing with our kick panel installation on the passenger side, we've already got our first pilot hole drilled. Using our pick tool, we go ahead and use one of the mounting holes, the one that we pre-drilled, to go ahead and line it up. Lining up that front edge with the end of this pinch weld, there's a clear line right here that will still give us enough room for put the molding on this trim right here. So we're going to go ahead and get that in position, finish drilling the rest of our holes. All right, so we've got the rest of our holes drilled. We know our kick panel positioning is good, so now we're going to go ahead and take that out, remove the kick panel, because now we have to install our sound deadening. So we'll go ahead and put that aside for now. We'll grab our Morel AccuDamp sound deadening, and what's really important here, we want to make sure we go past that line, so when we put the kick panel in, the edge of the sound deadening is not visible. We also want to get it at a low, as tight as we can to the floor and firewall. So let's just go ahead and peel that carpet back a little bit if you have carpet in the car. And then, like we talked about on the driver's side, we're going to go ahead and just peel a portion of the backer off. So about half of the backer, we pull it off, and then we can position the front of it where we want it without sticking it down. Make sure that we're behind this line, and roll the back of it into position, and that sticks. That keeps it in a position while we roll the rest of it off. Carefully remove the rest of the backing. If you go slow, it'll tend not to rip, and then you won't be pulling little small pieces off. So just take it slow and go ahead and stick the rest of it on. Grab our sound deadening roller and roll it out nice and flat. Get all the wrinkles out. This will activate the adhesive onto the sheet metal and keep it from going anywhere. Get that the edges are really important to get them down nice and tight. All right, we're good to go. We're ready for the next step. Go ahead and tuck that carpet back in, because we're going to want that as tight as we can underneath the kick panel, and get the wires about as close as we can to where they're going to come through the built-in channel that's on the back side of the kick panel. When we're ready to put the kick panel in, feed the wires through the opening, slide it back into position, making sure those wires are still lined up with that notch. Take our pick tool and find one of those pre-drilled holes that we've already drilled. It's going to be a little bit harder this time because we got to go through the sound deadening, but there we go. We've got one aligned. As long as we're lined up here and we make sure we're straight, the other ones should be pretty close. At this point, no need to drill through the sound deadening. We can just utilize the screws and kind of punch them through the sound deadening. So pick one of the other mounting holes, put the screw into position, get a nice firm punch through the sound ending, and we're lined up. Before you pull the pick tool out, make sure you get 2 screws in. That'll keep everything nice and lined up. And there we go, we got number 2. Pull out your alignment pick. And finish off with the other mounting screws. Make sure these are still lined up with the groove. And there you have it. Nice tight kick panel with Morel sound ending behind the kick panel to keep the acoustic reflections down. And we're ready to pop the speaker panel in there. So now we've got our speaker panel. We know this is our mid-woofer because we have connectors on. We got the large 1/4 inch connectors on our woofer. And we've got the smaller connectors on our tweeter. So we go ahead and connect those up. Positive to positive. Negative to negative. Same with the tweeter. Now on the tweeter, since we took off the little rubber boots on those to make them fit in our connectors, we're going to go ahead and tape those off to keep them from shorting against each other or metal. So use a little bit of good quality tape and just wrap it around there, seal them off. Don't need a lot here. Sometimes less is more. Now our speaker panel is ready to go in. It's going to fit snug, and it's also got magnets that will hold it into position. So make sure that your wires are inside of the mounting flange here so they don't bind up. Kind of guide them as you put it in. Once it's in position, firmly lock it in there. And there we go, our passenger side kick panel is good to go.